so happy to see your faces.
I know, it's so good to see your face.
It feels almost surreal. It's been 9 years, right?
Literally, I can't believe that. Literally, I cannot believe it's been 9 years since we shot.
Happened.
Yep.
House Hunters International.
In Chicago, and then in Penang.
She wasn't in Chicago with us.
Yeah, no, you weren't.
Yeah.
Oh, you shot a part in Chicago?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Wow. And then, I don't even know how we reconnected, to be honest. Was it
I
just
connected
online?
to you after I read your blog.
Oh.
Yeah.
About modern aging.
Yep.
And then I found out about, well, maybe you were already doing Sanding My Curls.
Yeah, I think I was doing Sanding My Curls, but I reached out to you because you wrote something, maybe it was about Annie, and you wrote something, and I was just so moved by it. I was on your newsletter. So
wow, isn't that?
Yeah.
You know what? I just love that.
Yeah, reconnecting.
Yeah. No, and I just love the fact that you've been traveling the world and you had spent so much time in Asia, and now you're here in Mexico, and here we are in Puerto Vallarta.
Yeah, life is pretty good. I can't
pretty
complain.
Fortunate, yeah.
I mean, we could, but
Yeah. So let's recap a little bit. So you guys were in Penang for how long?
9 years.
9 years.
Yeah.
Yep.
Wow. And then what was kind of the impetus to move back to this hemisphere?
It was after we could basically escape from Malaysia because all international travel was shut down because of COVID. And then there were a lot of rules that were fluid and they were changing like from one day to the next. And we were like, let's go home, let's see my dad and her mom, because we hadn't seen them for like almost a full 3 years.
2 years, not 3 years.
2? Okay. Mm-hmm. So then...
But it felt like 3.
Yeah. It felt like forever.
Well, we had 500 plus days of lockdowns where we were restricted in travel. We couldn't go past 10 kilometers of our house. Only one of us could go to the grocery store. You couldn't go to the gyms. You couldn't work out outside. You couldn't go to the beach. That was the really strict stuff was the first year, and it was almost a full year of that. And then they reduced it, and then they opened and closed and opened and closed. And we were like, as soon as they opened up for international travel, then we came back to visit the family.
I think the biggest thing for us was that, we weren't sure if we were going to be able to go back to Malaysia or that we wanted to go back to Malaysia. And so we had to kind of figure out what was next for us. So we had a friend here, Taniel, and who I met through you. And he said, we have an apartment next door that's, we can rent. So we said, we'll come for a month.
Oh, I remember that actually. Yeah, you were only supposed to come for a month.
Right,
yeah.
And then it was 2 months, and then it was 3 months, and then it was
extending.
6 months, and then it was 8 months.
Yeah.
And then it became on the 13th month, we decided that we were going to
come for a while.
We were going to come back to live in Mexico, but we still had all our stuff in Malaysia. So I had taken a job in the States, so we flew back to Malaysia for 1 month. We sold all of our possessions that we acquired over the 9 years. We sold cars, motorcycle, all the household furnishings that we had.
Wow.
And
it was a lot.
Yeah, and it was a lot.
Stressful month.
And then we had to clean up the place and say goodbye to our friends of that whole time, which we had two really. We're very fortunate. I had my birthday party, which we had a good group of people, but our going away party, we were blown away. We thought, there's only going to be like 25 people, and there was over 70 people came that knew us from, all
That's
the.
So nice.
It was very cool. Yeah, it was a lot of.
I think moving abroad.
Yeah.
There's just no other kind of community that. Because you're all kind of expats, right? You're all from a foreign country. Yeah.
So I think you get to kind of re-choose and reform a family. And so for us, it took us some time, but we definitely felt like this was the family that we chose. And that was the hardest part of leaving.
Yeah.
Was like leaving our family, because it's different when nobody has their family members to go to for holidays, for when things get rough or when things are great, and you want to celebrate. You have no one to go to. Your family's not there. You choose other people,
right?
And that's the biggest part about being an expat, I think, is making those connections, and makes you feel like you're home.
Yeah,
Right.
and a
And
lot
have
of
roots somewhere.
yeah,
Right.
and a lot of those people, were older, so they had full lives wherever they were from, but they moved to Penang, and that was where they were planning on spending the rest of their time. So, when we said we were going to do that as well, they were like, "Wow, you're so much younger," and we immediately bonded with a lot of people. We were very fortunate that we had the time to, especially in the beginning, to meet people, and over time, just the activities we took on and everything, we really had a great number of friends. It's still to this day, like I'm on Facebook and I'll see some of our friends and I'm like, we miss a lot of those activities and the big,
Right.
because you'd say, oh, we're going to go out for dinner, and then all of a sudden, oh, you guys want to come, and then the next thing you know, there's 30 people, at a hawker stall, but it's a blast, because all your friends are there, and
Yeah.
it's very
Well,
cool.
I mean, so aside from, being introduced to Taniel and getting an apartment, were your eyes set on Mexico, or were you?
Not at all.
Oh.
No,
We had no idea what we were doing.
Well, that's a great plan. Well, you're originally from Chicago.
Yeah.
You're originally from Connecticut,
Yeah.
right? But you hadn't lived there in...
9 years.
No, I had never really lived in Connecticut since I was 17. So I'd lived in Chicago since I was 22, and Chicago's home.
But we had no intention of going back to the States. We knew that wasn't going to happen.
Yeah.
We looked around and thought about it for a hot minute, and we were like, nope, not.
We
it's
were
not
in the
gonna
States
be.
for about 6 months, bouncing around between, Connecticut, Chicago, and we went down to Florida. Nothing felt right. So we bounced around in the States, but there was nothing that, we just didn't feel enamored to stay anywhere. And her job is, she works online, so she doesn't have to show up for work. And my job is also online, so I just have to work within the U.S. time frame, so it was fine.
And I think for us, it was, we came down here as we don't know what we're going to do. Let's come down here and see if it works out. And we joke and we say, Puerto Vallarta picked us because we didn't really pick Puerto Vallarta. We just came here and we were like, wow, this is great. And wow, it has all the things we want. And it's easy.
So
We've been here before.
when you say all the things you want, what is that?
Well,
Beach. That we let me. I can start.
Yeah.
So the first thing for us was that, or for me specifically, I needed to be in a place where we could go in the water, because we were living on an island before, and the water was not so clean and not so nice. So in the beaches, there was no beach atmosphere. So for me, I was like, if we're gonna live somewhere in Mexico, it's gotta be by the ocean where I can walk and be in the ocean and have someone bring me a beer while I'm sitting there and just relax and enjoy,
A low bar.
Yeah.
I just want someone to bring me a beer.
Well, but I mean, it's more than that. She makes it minutes. It's like having a beach culture, because in Asia,
Everyone
Malaysia.
stays out of the sun.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
Right,
That's
right,
true.
right.
That is true.
So there's not like a beach culture
There's
where
no restaurants
people.
on the beach, and
Yeah, it's
at least in
different.
Penang.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was a big thing for me. And being close to home was the other big thing for me, was that we could fly within, a day, not like 24 hours, but
Half a day we could be home.
Sunlight,
And then it checked all the other boxes. Like, it's relatively affordable. You had big international grocery stores, so you can get the kind of stuff that you wanted to get. Also, the healthcare is really good here, which is really important. I mean, neither one of us are sickly, but if something happens, you want to have it. So the health care is affordable and very good. And the ease of living here is simple. And the people are fantastic, which is, it's hard to be, to find a place where the energy is always so positive. Because it's a tourist in a beach destination, people come here, they're happy. They're not I gotta work. I mean, there are people that are like, that's us. But every night when we choose to, we walk down to the Malecon and we walk around, and there's just waves of tourists that are happy and they're having fun. And it's infectious, because it's really tough to be.
Forget about that.
It's really tough to be miserable when you're around so many happy people. So by default, it just elevates you. And then on top of it
And
all,
then you have all
It's
this sun. What are
right?
you talking
The,
about?
Yeah,
the sun,
it's
like there's
calm
no
and
gray
peaceful.
days here. I mean, I don't know. There are
Of course,
cloudy
yeah,
days,
yeah.
but compared to
Handful.
Chicago,
Yeah.
forget it. I
Right.
mean, and so the weather is fantastic. The people are really cool, and it is a unique lifestyle. I mean, like we mentioned earlier, we see the caballeros come riding their horses down the street.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Everybody comes
That
out of
never gets
everybody.
old, does it?
Yeah.
No, everybody comes out and is just looking over and waving at him. You know, it's because he's bringing like 5 or 6 horses to the beach so that the people can use them
To ride.
along the beach.
Yeah.
And so we're all just fascinated.
Yeah, and then it's like the old world charm that, you know, there's the water guy drives up the street and he screams water, and you just show him a bottle or two, however many you want, and he brings them up. There's a bread man that comes several times a day. There's a plant person that comes up here.
Yeah.
You know,
There's plant person.
Yeah,
like
like
to,
he-
to
they-
sell plants.
Yeah,
Or
yeah,
like
yeah.
water your plants.
no,
To sell plants.
they like
Yeah.
he rolls
It's
a
like a
cart with a bunch
wheelbarrow,
of
yeah.
Oh, my sister's not allowed to move here then, because she would literally buy it every single time
Yeah.
the plant man
You
came.
saw our next door neighbor's garden.
Yeah.
Or garden, whatever you want to call that, full of plants. Those
Wow,
are all
that's pretty
plants,
amazing.
Yeah, but then if you really want to get into the delivery stuff, on top of the typical deliveries from, you know, the grocery stores and stuff, the gentleman that lives on the first floor here, he gets a meat delivery, he gets egg delivery, he gets chicken delivery.
They have doctor calls.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
that
have
here, yeah.
our next door neighbors has had the doctor come here, and it's very affordable and very good. The doctor is
Care,
really
yeah.
good too.
Yeah.
Amazing, right? It's
Yeah.
such a different way of thinking. It's very old school
Yeah.
U.S. I think,
Yeah.
right? When
Yeah,
things
like
would
back
be
in the
like when,
50s.
yeah,
Yeah.
right, when
Yeah,
they would deliver
60s,
milk or
yeah.
whatever.
Yeah,
Right.
like we had it growing up. I had a milkman, I had a bread man, I had a cheese guy. You know, we had all that stuff. You know, and here, the doctors actually talk to you. Like I had a doctor's appointment, a skin doctor, 2 weeks ago. She spent an hour and 15 minutes.
I was like, are you coming back? What's
Like,
happening?
Unheard of. She.
And you're like, are you sure I should be sitting, you know, don't
Yeah.
you have another patient?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I've heard that often, actually.
Yeah.
And then they'll also, here's my cell phone, which would
Yeah.
never happen.
Yeah.
That's, yeah. I mean, and to be honest, that's the humane way to do it, right? That's
Yeah,
just
yeah.
kind of...
How it should be.
None of this
so
6
we've been
minutes.
so conditioned to be like, I'm so sorry, doctor, you know, I know you have another patient in 5 minutes. I know you have to pay your, you know, whatever, malpractice
Right.
insurance. And
Right.
the insurance companies are basically running your entire business.
Right.
How was your adjustment to Mexican culture? Because it is quite different
It's hugely
from Malaysian culture, and it's also different from American culture. I mean, there's plenty of Americans who are here, but it's still Mexico, right?
Yeah. And that's one of the things that we actually really loved about Puerto Vallarta versus the other coasts, is that we felt this was actually more authentic Mexico than the other coast. Just that there was more people more domestic travel here than there is to like Cancun and Playa del Carmen. This just felt more authentic to us. But back to your question, which I can't remember what it was.
No,
No, how was the, you know, us
Oh, the transition.
transitioning
Yeah.
through? I thought it was pretty easy because we were so used to being locked up in Malaysia that when we first came here, it was like, wow, you can
So free.
do anything. Like, COVID didn't exist. There was, in fact, when I first got here, I got COVID. But COVID wasn't like, there were signs, you flew, you had to get tested and all that stuff, but and people were wearing masks, but it wasn't like Malaysia where everyone, everywhere, mask, and it was very restrictive. And here it was, you know, they're very open and they're happy. Like and it was just so great to see happy people. Even didn't matter what the people were doing, they were happy, and that felt just so easy for us.
Yeah, I definitely think that the only thing that I remember feeling like, wow, this is really different, was the price, because Penang is like so affordable, and this is actually also very affordable, but compared to Penang, this is like living in Switzerland.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
it's so like,
except it's not if you've been to Switzerland.
no, of course it's not at
Yeah.
all.
Yeah.
But I
No,
mean,
but I
Penang
totally
is
get it.
so
Right. If
Southeast
you're-
Asia is.
Well, that's tough. That's a tough leap, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's not
Lots
going to
of
be as
costs.
cheap as...
Right.
No.
But other than that, like, it was refreshing being here because, like Mark said, it was just so happy and vibrant. And, you know, one of the things that we love about Mexico is how vibrant it is and how loud it is and how much music is all around. And there's roosters crowing all the time. Like, it's loud. This is not the place if you want a quiet, you know, peaceful life. Like, you can have it in Mexico, just not in Puerto Vallarta.
Yeah, Puerto Vallarta is not. I mean, and on top of it all, as wonderful as the food was in Malaysia, the service at a restaurant, unless you went to a really high-end restaurant, but the regular little places, not a lot of service here. You can go to a little local fonda for lunch, and you know, they're just so sweet and warm, and it's just a different experience. Not that the Malaysian people are super sweet and warm, but just service is different. Like here, if you say, hey, can I get this? They're like, yeah, no problem. You know, they're happy to do anything. It's really accommodating. And that, to us, just felt so easy.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's so great.
Yeah.
Wow. So you land here, you're in PV, you get this apartment, right? I mean, I don't know if you were planning to stay in that apartment near Taniel just temporarily.
Yeah.
Were you always
A
looking
month.
to move on?
No.
Yeah, we didn't
Like,
start
so
looking
was-
for an apartment till after a whole year.
Well, you
living
weren't even
here.
planning to be here for a year.
Right, but I'm saying after we stayed in that one apartment a year, then we said,
should
okay,
probably look for an
we
apartment.
should probably look for an apartment. And then we did, and we found an apartment. Then we went back to Malaysia and did that, and then moved back
Oh, I see.
here.
Yeah.
So tell me, what was that process like? You know, moving abroad in itself is a very scary concept for many people, right?
Yeah.
A lot of people dream about it. Most people will never end up doing it,
Right.
right? But you've done it multiple times, and you've been abroad for a long time. So I guess I just, you know, so now you're like, okay, I gotta go rent a place. Like, where do you even start? Do you just, clearly online, probably.
Right, but
Facebook.
also
Facebook, always.
yeah, Facebook, but then also talking to, you know, we talked to Taniel who said, oh, I've got a friend who does rentals, talk to her. And then you start looking, like you said, online, and then we walked and walked and
All the
walked all the
neighborhoods, yeah.
neighborhoods, and we took phone numbers down, and we looked at buildings, and, you know,
So you just saw like a Sirenta sign, and then you just,
yeah.
so
call.
where were you looking?
Well, when we first started, we stayed in the romantic zone, but the prices were very high for the second bedroom. It was a big deal.
Okay,
You
so
know.
the first apartment was a one bedroom.
Yeah,
Like 1.5.
Oh, right.
One
So it's
flex.
like a flex.
Yeah.
space.
yeah,
Yeah.
and it was a one bedroom and an office space and 1.5 baths, and that was a really nice place and a great location. And we had, you know, that was ideal. But we really wanted that second bedroom and second bath, and
Yeah.
that kind of priced us out of the. We did find a place, but it was in a building that was old and needed a lot of renovations, and the landlords made it very clear that those renovations would be our cost, and
Oh, wow.
we weren't really willing to invest in somebody else's building. So we started moving out further. And then we got basically to here.
I think we knew that we didn't want to go as far as the hotel zone, which is farther north of here. So we wanted to stay somewhere pretty central, and also that we would be close enough to the beach, within like a 15, 20-minute walk to the beach. So that was kind of limiting for us in that sense. Like, we had a band that we were willing to go through.
And this was literally, the end of our band was maybe 2 blocks that way, north. So we just kind of snuck in. But this has a lot of benefits that, yeah, we do have to walk up one really tremendous hill, but we're also on a street that's very famous for food. There's a lot of great restaurants right on this street, and at the end of the street is the ocean. And, you know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and that,
We don't have to leave this neighborhood at
Right.
all.
It's-
Except for the
That's
grocery
great.
store. Well, we have a grocery store,
Yeah.
but it's not my favorite grocery store.
But we don't even that, the truth be told, we can walk down the same street and take a left, and in 2 more minutes be at that grocery store, and you could get pretty much everything you'd want. Maybe not fresh meat and fish, but
Not a
everything
one-stop
else,
shop.
right.
Right.
But we're also this way, 3 or 4 blocks away, there's a big open air fish market where the food is fantastic. I mean,
Yeah,
we
we get all our fish and all of our vegetables right there.
Yeah.
That's where we get most of our weekly, like, produce, even bread and fish.
Yeah, like we get a beautiful tenderloin of tuna, and it's like $8.50, $9 a pound,
Wow.
and it's fresh. Like you see it get
whole
wheeled
fish.
in. It's the whole thing, and you just you tell the butcher or whatever you call the fishmonger. You tell him I want this much,
Yeah.
and the same thing
And we
the
take it home and
shrimp.
just eat it raw.
Yeah, I think the fresh fish in shrimp here it's ridiculous. I mean, if I bought that same piece of tuna back in Connecticut or in Chicago, you're paying $30 plus a pound, and the shrimp you're paying, I don't know, probably 10, 12 a pound, and we're paying like 3.5, 4. And they'll take it, and while you're shopping, you go, okay, here's the shrimp I want, weigh it, and then they'll devein it and
Clean
do
it
it,
for you.
and then so you come back and it's all done. It's really,
That's amazing.
Life's pretty
Yeah.
easy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
yeah,
So can we talk about monthly expenses?
yes.
Can.
Because people are always asking me, can I live in Mexico for X amount?
Right.
Can I live there for 2,000? Can I live there for 3,000? I mean, you can live here for any amount. It just means that you can't spend,
Right.
Right.
you just have to be on a strict budget or not, right?
Exactly.
So in general, including your like utilities, your rent, your food, entertainment and stuff, what is your roundabout like monthly expense? Do you
Well,
think?
we came up with all of our expenses, but we have some global expenses still back in the States that get tied into it, but about what, 40?
Without those things, it's probably 3,500.
Okay, yeah,
Without the stuff, just the stuff here is probably about 3,500 US.
right.
And that is without even like attempting to budget. It's not. It's if we want to go out, we go out. If we want to eat steak, we eat steak. If we want to have a nice bottle
Right.
of tequila, we do. Like that, not for dinner, but I mean just in general, we do. Like we don't at all think about it. If we
Yeah,
wanted
we-
to think about it, our rent here is 1,600. So if we wanted to not cook as much, because it's actually not more expensive, but we cook more expensively because we like to make steak and we like to have nice food, and so we cook it that way.
Right.
We could probably go out and get a small steak dinner somewhere and spend less, but we would also, when we cook at home, we'll keep it leftovers for the next couple days for lunches and that kind of stuff. But we eat out at least 4 nights a week.
What?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's just a taco though, so it's just a $1
still.
taco though. So
$1 taco?
yeah,
Those
we're
still
full.
exist?
Yeah. So maybe
Yeah.
is it a 150 now?
Yeah, well-
They're the same price, but the dollar is
Right.
Yeah, but the other day we had down the street here, right on the street that I said is famous for food, we got 6 tacos and it was 56 pesos. And right now it's at about 17 peso to the dollar. So, it's pretty reasonable. You can get a very affordable meal. And we'll go, like Kirsten said, sometimes we'll go to that kind of place, but other times we'll go to a fancy like Daiquiri Dick's or
go to the beach and eat on the beach somewhere. Yeah.
There's,
So-
oh my God. Eating
Yeah.
on the beach, really, there
With
is
your
no.
feet in the sand.
Oh.
Yeah.
It's pretty spectacular.
It's,
Yeah.
It certainly
doesn't
is.
get old.
Like literally, I feel like you can feel the stress just like
Yeah.
melt away.
Yeah.
While you're sitting there.
And a lot of
water.
there's a lot of little restaurants that are on the way to the beach that if you go and you sit on the beach and you tell the guy who rents you the chair that you want something from one of those restaurants, they'll run up and they'll get that food for you and bring it to you.
I think I would cry.
No, I mean, it's really,
Joy.
Yeah.
it
Pure-
really,
Yeah, no, it's wonderful. If you don't want to go and spend the day at like a beach club, which is just a restaurant with a beach, beach chairs. You just stand there and someone will be like, do you need an umbrella? We're like, yep. Do you need chairs? Yep. Okay, here you go. And then, do you need some food? Yep. How about a beer? Okay. I'm like, this is checking all my boxes. This is why we live here.
it makes it very,
Yeah.
and even if you spend the whole day at a beach club and you have lunch and a couple of adult drinks and, maybe it's $35 a person, So it's not outrageous. If you went to a similar club in Chicago or in Miami, it would be 3 times that.
Oh, at least.
Yeah.
At least.
Yeah. So back to
Just
our.
to park your car, it's $35.
Right,
Yeah.
right. And so, I mean, our expenses generally, I would say, are like rent and food are definitely our biggest expense, but we do Uber everywhere, and that's probably about $100 a month.
Yeah, maybe a little bit more.
150.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But that's cheaper than owning a car.
exactly. That's why we don't own one.
Right.
Yeah.
And would you say, like, how quickly do they come? Is it the type of thing where you have to
It's within.
pre-schedule it or anything?
No, I mean,
10 minutes?
during on average, it's 10 minutes or less. And during high times, it may be 15 minutes, but honestly, very rarely. And
Yeah, I've never had a problem.
We have 3 different car services that you can get readily here. So it's not just Uber. There's an InDrive, which is a local, and then there's taxis. And even though
And
we're
there's
up,
Didi, which we've never
then
used.
there's Didi. So, but even though we're up and away from the tourists, the taxis seem to do a lot of business
Yeah.
on the street. So we can always pick up a car.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow. That's amazing.
yeah,
That's amazing. So it sounds like you really picked the right spot.
yeah. And we do have healthcare here too.
Also,
So-
you have health insurance. Do you have
We-
expat health insurance or
No,
we have local?
local Mexican health insurance.
So you do, because you're young enough. I mean, I know if you're over 70, I believe,
Right.
it's much more difficult to get
Yeah.
Mexican national insurance. So have you used it?
No, we never get sick. We're really fortunate, you know.
So is it more like catastrophic insurance where if you need to be hospitalized, it'll
Yeah.
cover you for that?
Yeah.
Because that's the other thing that I've heard that, if you have a cold or whatever, you just go to the farmacia.
Right.
Just go to
Yeah.
the pharmacy and there's doctors there or you
Yeah.
have a house call.
Right. I've been to the doctor, but I
Yeah.
just never gave it to my insurance company because it's $50 or $40 or $20.
Yeah, I hurt my
depending
back.
on what you're doing.
I hurt my back. I went to go see one of those doctors and said, hey, my back is spasming. And he's like, oh, you tried Voltaren or something. I like, that's not going to work. I tried it and I put it on and it's still spasming. He's like, okay, go next door. And he wrote a script. I paid over there, came back and he gave me injection in my back, a muscle relaxer, and it was $18. I mean, everything.
Yeah.
That was the
What?
that was the injection, the doctor's visit, and the drugs to fit in the needle as well as the needle. All done, $18. It's like,
For that
Yeah.
reason alone, you can never live in the United States again.
yeah,
Oh my God.
No, I buy
Wow.
insurance to go home. When we go back to the States to visit, I buy travel insurance for the United States.
Wow.
Because I think
Yeah.
Right.
God forbid something happened, then
Then you're screwed.
yeah. You gotta have it.
And so what do you pay? What's your premium for the Mexican national insurance?
So we just renewed for the year, and for the 2 of us, it was $4,400.
For the year?
Yeah. So to
Yeah.
put it in perspective, when we left the U.S. before, we had a similar catastrophic policy, only instead of a $2,500 deductible, it was $7,500. And we were paying $19,000 a year for the 2 of us.
yeah.
And now we're paying $4,400 with a lower deductible. And, so it just, the math for health just doesn't make sense in the U.S.
And the care
Yeah,
is equivalent.
Yeah, or better.
or better.
Yeah.
Because
yeah.
they actually give you time. So it's not that the doctors aren't qualified in America, it's just they don't have the time to actually listen to you or talk to you or do
Yeah.
the things that you actually need to talk about.
The first 15 days of the month, and any doctor in the States is paying overhead and insurance.
Yeah.
It's a very tough to make a living as a doctor. It's not the doctors. I mean, it's the system is tough. So we're never going to change it. So,
Right.
but we are
Here we are.
consumers, so we're here.
Right. Right. Wow. So as we kind of wrap this up, what would you say, if you were to give advice for people who are looking to move to Mexico? Like, what are some of the things that they should really be thinking about when they choose the city that they want to live in? Like, what are some of the things that you've learned along the way, like the learning lessons, where you'd be like,
I wouldn't buy right away, even though I'm a strong believer in owning real estate. I don't think it's ever worth buying right away because real estate is an illiquid asset and it takes time to unload if you find you don't like it. So I'd rent, and I would take the time to research and invest like we did before you leave in talking to people and taking programs to learn about it, because really the difference between living in this part of Mexico versus maybe Cozumel or Cancun or Playa del Carmen could be worlds of difference, not just in lifestyle, but in financial. Like living in Playa del Carmen, kind of on target to here price-wise, but if you go into Tulum, forget about it. It's more expensive than living in the US for most people. So, doing that research in advance, and then don't be afraid to put your stuff in storage and go check it out for 3 months, just a season,
That's what I was going to say, is come here and try it out. Don't just think that, oh yeah, I've been to Mexico on vacation. It's going to be just like that, because it's nothing like that at all. If only we could all live on vacation. So, and maybe when you're retired, maybe that's your life on vacation. But, come and try it out and check out the neighborhood before you buy. Like, I don't, like what you were saying is, don't buy immediately, but I just think you need to spend some time in the neighborhood, because just because you love the neighborhood doesn't mean the block you're on is going to be the best block for you, because your neighbors could be terrible, and, you never know. So just spend some time, like, getting to know the area and getting to know what you really need. But also, don't be afraid. Like, don't be afraid to, come to Mexico. It's not as scary as the news makes it seem.
Yeah, that's for sure.
I mean, we're much safer here than we would be in Chicago. So, and I'm sure that works both ways. I'm sure it's not as scary as the news in Chicago makes it seem, but still the same. And I also think it's important to, get here and suss it out and see if it's for you, because it's not for everybody. And don't be afraid to come to Mexico, but don't be afraid to make the move out of America.
Yeah.
It's not that nothing's wrong with America.
Or any country.
Yeah. I mean, nothing is wrong. Like, we love America. It is our home. We always say it's our home. Yeah.
But we just love the lifestyle here, and
we have a whole different lifestyle by living abroad, and it's, for us, it's a dream lifestyle. It makes us really happy living abroad. So it's not as scary once you do it once. It's not as scary, obviously, but just take that first step and just even do it part-time, a month.
Yeah, I mean, a long vacation where if you're work while you're there, so you see what it's like. Like, is the internet strong enough for whatever you're doing? We're very fortunate because we have fantastic internet here. We never have a problem with it, but there are places in Mexico that have challenges.
Right.
Wow, that's actually incredible sound and very practical advice, right? So I think that's wonderful, and it just makes it seem doable, I think, and less scary. And kind of, thank you so much for talking with me, because I just think that this really helps other people, get the courage to take the leap.
Yeah.
And it's so
That's
nice to see your
thing.
faces.
I know.
Thank you so
good
much.
to see you.
Yeah, we're so happy to reconnect in person.
And here, of all places.
Yeah.
Yeah. We get
Life's
you
a
here.
funny thing.
Yeah, we get you here.